Hey guys, Enigmatic Mr. L here. Welcome back to the series where I try to come up with personal skills for various Fire Emblem games. This time around, it's Thracia 776. So, just like before, I'm assuming little to no changes elsewhere in the game, so faithful remake or just a ROM hack with these skills added in. Mostly focusing on what makes sense for character wise, but especially in a game like this where many characters only have like a single line of dialogue or so, sometimes I just went with what was practical. Certain skills might be unbalanced, but this is the same game that gives us units like Aspel, Tina, Safi, and Dagdar, while also giving us Shanna, Miranda, and the Scrub Squad from Chapter 9. So make of that what you will. With that out of the way, let's just get on with the list. Starting with Leaf, Inspire. Adjacent allies deal plus 2 damage and take less 2 damage. Same skill I gave him in Genealogy of the Holy War. Finn, Subdue. Grants use of Subdue command, a restrained attack that always leaves foe with at least 1 HP. Same skill I gave 2nd generation Finn in Genealogy of the Holy War. This time I think it'll work even better since Finn is available right away and act as a proper Jagan. Ossian, Overkill. Critical hits deal quadruple damage instead of triple. Ossian's whole kit is built around critical hits. It's got a follow-up critical multiplier of like 2 or 3. It's got the Wrath skill. He has like a personal axe. It's like a cross between a hand axe and a killer axe. So I want to have a skill that goes along with that. As the name implies, it's pretty much overkill. I don't think there's many instances where the quadruple damage is actually going to be meaningful, but I do think it's flashy and cool. Halvin, Practice Makes Perfect. Doubles the unit's weapon EXP growth. So basically just think Disciplined from other Fire Emblem games. Kind of just a nice practical skill. It's always in effect. Halvin's kind of think of like a boring unit, but I mean, he's fine, he's workable. And I think the skill fits in with that. Like, it won't hurt to get your axe rank up higher, and if you do decide to promote him, getting up sword rank faster would be beneficial as well. Avel, Immunity. Unit always dodges lethal attacks. Avel already has the skill naturally for the first 3 chapters, so just wanted to give her a skill that outright spells it out for you. Would be funny, like seeing first timers come across this skill and they'd be like, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Maybe I shouldn't be relying on Evel for everything. And yes, this does mean that if you go to the trouble of recruiting her back, you would effectively have an invincible unit for in game, or maybe the enemies would just try to capture her. But either way, I still don't think it'd be worth re-recruiting her. Dagdar, Bring It On. Unit always performs critical hits when at half HP or less. This is basically just how Wrath works in Genealogy of the Holy War. As I do think it's kind of funny, Dagdar with his like a cost skill, getting hit by a ballista, it's like more, bring it on, she gets hit by another one. Kind of like one of those skills you see like elsewhere, like the more damage you take, the more powerful you become. Tanya, Steady Aim. Unit gains plus 20 hit if initiating attack without moving. Basically stripped right off of like, I think it's the Bow Knight skill from Engage, but only 20 hit instead of plus 40. One of those skills has nothing to do with Tanya's character, but I think it's kind of fitting for an archer character. Marty, Carry On. Unit suffers no stat penalties for rescuing/capturing another unit. So think basically a savior skill. If nothing else, Marty is known for his massive con, both starting out and he has like a massive con growth. So this will help him put it to use. Ronin, Magic Embed. Unit deals half of magic to attack when initiating combat. Ronin actually has a surprising magic growth. I think it's like 55%. Even though I don't think there's any like magic bow in this game, so it mostly goes to waste. I mean, yes, in this game, magic is tied to resistance, so it's not completely useless. But this way, you have more of a reason to get excited about when he levels up magic. Maybe give him a reason to like equip a pure water here and there. Safi, Focused. Unit cannot miss with stabs. I think as your introduction to stabs, I think it'd be fine to have your unit just be the exception to one of Thracia's like infamous mechanics, as there'll be plenty of time to miss with stabs later with like Nana and especially Tina. But at least like your first dedicated staff bot, you don't have to worry about that small chance that she just misses. And this does mean that once you get to a certain skill threshold, this skill pretty much becomes useless. Lithis, Slippery. Unit escapes being captured at the start of their turn. This is basically how you first are introduced to Lithis. You're supposed to like capture him, hold on to him, and then seize. This puts a little bit of a time limit on it, as soon as you capture him, you need to make sure you seize, or else he'll like get away and you have to capture him again. So I think it's kind of fitting. Machia, ladies first. Unit gains 100 EXP if first to escape on a map. Not really much to go off of here, just that she does have Vantage, going first, lady. It's a stretch, but I really couldn't think of anything else. Brighton, after you. Unit gains 5 EXP for every unit who escapes before this unit escapes. Kind of like with Machia, didn't have much to go off of, but as they come in as a pair, just wanted a complementary skill. It just kind of fits. His escape quote is like, darn shameful of me leaving before others like this, so I think it works enough. Laura, Sticky Fingers. Unit holds onto inventory when being captured. Kind of fits in with Laura's thief utility before she's promoted to dancer, and she's often offered up as a capture bait during the Manister section, so this way you at least don't have to worry about always taking off vulneraries and lockpicks off of her and the like. Fergus, Greedy for Gold. Unit gains plus 20 hit and avoid when fighting in the arena. It's heavily implied that Fergus is the illegitimate son of Beowulf, a unit like heavily inspired by money. So I think the way to translate this over is when Fergus is like fighting the arena, knows when there's like big money to be won or lost, he's much more motivated to try harder. Karen, Learned Instinct. Unit gains plus 30 avoid against Ballista. Not really much to do with Karen's personality, but I think being trained as like a Pegasus warrior, she knows to avoid Ballista, so that like adrenaline kicks in. She's much more likely to dodge it. This would mean that if you accidentally made a mistake, leave her in Ballista, you could just get lucky, she won't die. Or like especially on turn 1 or 2, if you're not Iron Man, you could play some really risky maneuvers. Aspel, Swift like the Wind. Unit's constitution offsets tome weight. So mages in this game, they always have a speed penalty based on the tome's weight, no matter how high their constitution is, unlike, physical weapons. So this fits in with Aspel being a very fast unit, given like his speed growth. And critically, if you like max out his speed enough, it will allow him to double Gomez in Chapter 8X, making that much less annoying. Dhalsim, Piercing Eyes. Unit can see twice as far in Fog of War. Dhalsim comes with a torch in his inventory, so it's kind of a reference to that. And this gives him some minor utility, as even thieves in this game don't get enhanced Fog of War vision. Nana, Mixed Attacker. Grants plus 5 to magic when using Magical Sword. The same skill I gave for in Genealogy of the Holy War. Hicks, Heavy Horseman. Unit is immune to bonus damage or effective damage. Not really much to go on Hicks' personality or lack thereof, but he does have a small role to fulfill. He's got an axe that's effective against cavalry units, but some of them have rapiers, so he's also facing risk there. This allows him to give him like a hot minute to shine in like his recruitment chapter. Shiva, Whatever Doesn't Kill You. Skill percent chance to add strength equal to HP lost. Kind of fits in with like an edgy swordsman type character, and it would work very nice with Soul, a skill he comes equipped with. As the way I picture it, there's a chance for these can trigger independently of each other, but there's also a chance they can simultaneously activate, which would be really beneficial. Carrion, Snowballing. Luck divided by 2% chance to receive double EXP gain. All of Carrion's like kit, his low bases, decent growth, are kind of built around like a projects unit. You like level up a lot to get them like kind of 0 to hero. This kind of fits in with that, as he's also the one who receives the Paragon Sword, although you can really just give that to anyone. This kind of fits in with like his whole double EXP spill. Selfina, Fearless Leader. Grants plus 10 hit, avoid, and crit when at full HP. Just kind of fits in with her leading like the Scrub Squad in her like joining chapter, as those 3 stats are kind of what I gave the other units. Just instead of full HP, they're at low HP. So Kane, Frantic, being the green Christmas Cavalier, often known for speed, he grants increased avoid when at low HP, plus 10 when at 3/4 to half, plus 50 when at half to a quarter, and plus 30 when at quarter to 1 HP. Alva, Adrenaline Rush, same thing, except it's adding crit rate. Kind of fits in with like the Red Cavalier, also means strength focus. I think like crit could translate well to that. And Robert gets locked in, just adding more hit the more the lower his HP get. I've always thought this trio of skills would be interesting for like a trio of units to have in Fire Emblem. I thought now seemed like a good as in times any to kind of implement it in. Fred, Happy to Serve. Once per map, attacks that would kill adjacent unit are dealt to this unit instead. Fred is always like happy to serve under Olwen, so I think this would translate also when he joins Leaf's army, that he's also happy to serve him as well. Speaking of Olwen, Thunder Specialist. Grants plus 10 to hit when using thunder magic. Just kind of ties in that she's known for a dire thunder. Makes that a bit more reliable because it has shaky accuracy. And also, if you do bother to train her up, it would make bolting more reliable as well. Marita, surpassing limits. Adds plus 5 to all stat caps. Marita is kind of the definition of like overkill because she has some good skills. She has Luna. She can learn Astra through an event with Shannon. She has solid growth. She has a personal skill or a personal sword that grants like his brave effect and grants Nihil. But given her low base stats, it's just kind of like overkill, more trouble than it's worth. But I think this kind of ties into Marita's kit as a whole. As, yes, the skill's completely useless at first, but if you do bother to train her, you get an even more broken, busted, overpowered unit. Salem, Recluse. Unit deals plus 3 damage when no allies are within 3 spaces. Salem is called a Recluse in the ending of Thracia 776, so a skill just boosts damage output when no other allies around. Seemed fair. Perne, Eyes on the Prize. Unit gains plus 2 Constitution when stealing. So this wouldn't affect his combat in any way. He'd still get slowed down by heavier weapons. But I think it's kind of fitting in character that Pern finds enough motivation when you see something that he could potentially steal. And obviously this has a huge gameplay benefits to it as well. Trude, Ever Alert. Unit gains plus 10 avoid when using the wait command. Of the 3 Myrmidons and Swordmasters, Trude is built as the more like defensive one, both in the stats and he has a Nihil skill. So I wanted something that ties into that as well, making him more of a dodge tank when he's not actively fighting. Tina, Not for Nothing. Unit gains double EXP when missing with a staff. Tina's going to be missing a lot. And in addition to the fact of, hey, I still get EXP, preserved staff use, this way you get another small bonus. It's like, hey, I get even more EXP. And just like her sister Safi, this is another skill that once she hits a certain skill threshold, this skill does absolutely nothing. And I think it's a nice parallel to Safi. She can't miss, whereas Tina, she can miss, but she at least gets something out of it. Glade, Dismount with Dignity. Unit suffers no stat penalties other than movement for dismounting. I think this fits in well with a unit on horseback with an authority star. He's still not really any good on indoor maps because the movement penalty, and he has to go from like A rank in lances to like an E or so rank in swords, but it did seem fitting. Dean, Aerial Advantage. Grants plus 10 to hit and avoid against flying enemies. Kind of similar to the personal skill I gave Altina, Genealogy of the Holy War. Being a Draco Knight of Thracia, he's skilled in knowing how to like fight them, knows their strengths and weaknesses, and I think that would translate just flying enemies in general. Ida, In the Shadow of Greatness. Grants plus 1 to all non-movement stats when adjacent to a higher leveled ally. Add 20 for promoted classes. So Ida often gets paired to Dean, and I would imagine just constantly living in the shadow of such a great unit puts a bit of like a jealousy on her. So she's motivated to fight much harder when she's next to a high-leveled ally. Homer, Flirting. Unit deals plus 1 damage for every female unit within 3 spaces. Pretty self-explanatory from what little we know of Homer based on like his interactions with Nana and his join chapter. I think this was a fitting skill to have. Linon, Piercing Light. Unit negates magic stat of enemies using dark magic. Linon is known for using light magic, and I think it'd be fitting to just completely negate the resistance. But in this game, magic and resistance are tied together. I thought about like awkwardly wording that, and it's like, screw it. She's also just going to barely take any damage when she's fighting sorcerers, druids, and the like. Ralph, Mountain Man. Unit takes no movement penalties from mountain tiles. When we first see Ralph, he's fighting near mountains. That's all I got. Ilios, Envy. Unit deals plus 2 damage for every authority star on enemy. Ilios is kind of envious of the fact that he's not like a true noble. He's envious of those in their commanding positions. So I imagine he gets like take out a bit of that frustration once he's fighting units with authority stars. Sleuth, Holy Aura. Adjacent allies are healed by 10% at the start of turn. Seems fitting for like a holy man of the cloth who like an A rank in stats who can't even attack before promotion. Just a passive healing skill. Misha, Magically Gifted. Unit adds half of strength to attack when initiating combat with magical sword. Kind of the inverse of what I gave Ronin, but Misha has a surprisingly good magic stat, so she's a good candidate for like swords like the flame sword, and this gives you more of a reason to use her that way. Sarah, Fight On. Unit is immune to status effects. Sarah's the one who undoes Avel's like petrification effect, and I imagine if she's skilled enough to do that, it would also make sense that she can't be petrified, and by extension, like put to sleep or berserked or silenced. Shannon, accidental fatality. Skill divided by 4% chance to instantly defeat foe. This is kind of a reference to, even though it was accidentally, he did still technically manage to teach Marita how to use the Astra skill, and I just think it would be funny just every now and then just completely wipes out an enemy. I mean, at start, basic skill is like 8, so it's only 2% chance to activate, and even if you max out a skill, it's only 5% chance, but it's more funny than it is practical. Miranda, against the odds. Unit gains plus 10 to hit and avoid against higher level enemies, add 20 for promoted classes. Pretty much like the underdog skill from games like Awakening, and I think Fates has it. Miranda's just completely like outclassed by enemies that in her joint chapter. It's an uphill battle. So this kind of relates that even though the odds are against her, she can manage to fight and overcome them. Xavier, the Wall. Unit cannot be doubled. Kind of just fits in with Xavier as a general known for their defense, makes them even more defensive by just having a strictly better version of something like Wary Fighter. Now, granted, Xavier still isn't worth recruiting with this skill, but in order to make Xavier worth recruiting, I'd have to give him a skill that allows him to like quad dance while simultaneously quad warping units. Amalda, passionate healer. Healing with stabs reduces allies' fatigue by 1. I don't think this would be a very practical skill given how late in the game it is, but I do think it fits in with like Amalda and her association with Sleuth and like the church and being able to use staffs herself. Conamore, Safeguard. Unit is immune to critical hits. This is a reference to an A round where you don't recruit Conamore. He does have the Nihil skill on him that you can like steal or capture. So he doesn't get the full benefits of that. He's still vulnerable to enemy skills, but at least he won't be getting crit. Darmuid, Fierce Defender. Grants plus 20 crit when attacking second. This is basically what I gave Darmuid in Genealogy of the Holy War, but the way crit works in this game, I had to rework the skill a little bit. Sias, Higher Authority. This unit negates penalties from enemy leadership stars. Sias is known for his insane amount of authority stars, even though they gradually decrease when it becomes a playable unit. But I think this is fitting. He'll have a massive hit buff when fighting enemies, massive like dodge boost as well. And this would make the decision between Sias and Sed a little bit closer. Sed, Wind is with me. Grants plus 3 defense / resistance when using a wind tome. Same skill I gave him in Genealogy of the Holy War. And last but not least, Galzus. The hunt is on. Once per turn, unit can move again after defeating an enemy. So Gale Force, basically. I think this kind of fits in when you first see Galzus in like chapters, I think it's like chapter 6, like chapter 5. He's like in hot pursuit of you, and it's going to like allow him to like close the gap further if he manages like to defeat a unit or something like that. And it could be mildly useful once he's recruited to your team. And that is my list. As always, thank you so much for watching. Any skills you have critiques on, any skill ideas you think are better than the ones I presented, please let me know in the comments below. This is Enigmatic Mr. L, signing out.